Hi, if anybody's watching. I'm not watching. I should watch. I should put it on YouTube. Hi, my name is Paul. This is Imagine Moving On, or formerly known as Stop Recovering, Start Living. Call it whatever you want. I don't know what I'm calling it yet. I imagine because I got this banner printed up, we should call it Imagine Moving On, because otherwise, what's the point of having that banner? If you are seeing this, then I either just sent you a text message telling you that I'm testing out the live streaming function, or you are a subscriber to my channel, Stop Recovering, Start Living. Actually, I guess it's just my name now. It just says Paul Brody. A couple years ago, I made some videos on the topics of addiction and personal improvement, I guess you could call it. I'm a licensed alcohol and drug counselor by profession. This is not an extension of my, and it's an extension of my profession, I suppose, because I'm talking about similar concepts, but it's not, I'm not performing this video in the capacity of my license or having anything to do with that. It just happens to be what I do for work, and this is more about what I am, or what I'm being. And yeah, that's it. So this is the first time I'm trying to live stream. I don't know how it's gonna work, how it's gonna sound. I got this little lapel microphone. The webcam microphone didn't seem to be picking me up as well. But let's see what happens. So let me know if it doesn't sound good or look good, and be as harsh as you want, because I'm not offended by things. My sister gave me this shirt for Christmas, and I live by it. Well, not really. At first I thought, nah, it's not really me. I don't think, if you find it offensive, I find it funny. That's why I'm happier than you. It ruffled me a little bit, the happier than you thing. It's not about being happier than somebody, but I think I guess I was misinterpreting it. If you find it offensive, I find it funny. That's why I'm happier than you. If it was, that's why I have more peace. Well, or that's why I have peace in my life. That would be more in line with it. But I think it does accurately represent me. Don't be offended by anything. That's from the 4 agreements. We'll get into that later. Or you can go back on I do have videos on this channel. So if you're somehow finding me for the first time in this capacity, I do have videos. But I wanted to share a couple of quotes that I've seen recently, and in the context of where I live in Barrie, Vermont, and recently, last week, a week ago, and possibly today, if the forecast holds up to what they're saying, we had flooding. This seems really dark. I have this bright light, but I got to reposition it, I think. It just feels like this is dark looking. We had flooding last week, pretty catastrophic, wiped out a lot of stuff, and pretty devastating. And that can create a lot of fear for people. And then this Alan Watts quote came up on the feed, and I saw it, and I thought, hey, that's brilliant, that's relevant. And I saw it recently also, a couple months ago, weeks ago, I don't know when it was. And it was relevant to me there as well. I'll tell you about that. But anyway, yeah, so we had flooding and thinking about fear. And here's this quote by Alan Watts. I think this works. If I click this button, I think you see this. I don't know. Oh, right. This is a test. So I should have pulled this up on my iPad already. I tested it out earlier on a different channel that I have for another podcast that I do. Can I not stream this if it's my own channel? Maybe I can't watch it on my own channel. Live. Here we go. Okay, yeah, I can see that. All right. Managing moderators. I don't have moderators. Okay. Nobody's watching. Cool. All right. So you see this. I see this. Great. Alan Watts. If you don't know who Alan Watts is, look him up. He's brilliant. He's a philosopher, thinker, teacher, leader, thought leader. I don't know what he is, but he follows Buddhism, Taoism, teaches a lot of those principles, and I love it a lot. So he says, by replacing fear of the unknown with curiosity, we open ourselves up to an infinite stream of possibility. We can let fear rule our lives, or we can become childlike with curiosity, pushing our boundaries, leaping out of our comfort zones, and accepting what life puts before us. A couple months ago, I went to a paranormal investigation with Green Mountain Paranormal Investigators, some people I met in, I think, April, and became friends with pretty quickly. They're great. And they had an event in Lake George, New York, at from a fort from 1757 in French and English battle back then. And I went to the fort with them. They had a little event going on, and I always watch the ghost hunter shows and stuff like that, and it's I don't know. You're in the dark, and they got the scary music playing when you're watching on TV, and they're all in the dark, and scary music playing, and everyone's acting on edge, and it's spooky, and it's easy to get caught up in that fear. And so I also, in the past, in the dark or whenever by myself, I get afraid of things. And so I saw this quote before going to that, or maybe it was right after going to that. I don't know, sometime around the same time, and tried to embrace that mindset of reaching down. I'm going to click back over there. Okay, by replacing fear of the unknown with curiosity. So I didn't know what was going on at the fort. I guess I'm still skeptical, but that was an interesting experience. Just Saying Things podcast. That's my friend Travis and I have a podcast, and we talked about that. There's a couple of episodes talking about. We went back to that same location, did another investigation there. Travis went the second time, and we've had a couple conversations about that. So I did have some interesting experiences that I don't know how to explain necessarily. So something paranormal was going on, and I embraced that. I'm open to anything, but I am skeptical of things. I want to understand why they're happening. Anyway, that's not the point. The point is to become curious of it instead of afraid of it. Instead of being afraid of being in the dark, become curious of it. Push your boundaries. Get out of the comfort zone. So, and the key here, I think, is accepting what life puts before us. If we are accepting of the experiences that we're having, we're not resisting them, then we can grow in them and recognize that just because something's happening out here in our environment doesn't mean it has to influence what's happening in here inside of us, in our heart and our mind. We get to control what's going on inside. We don't get to control everything that's going on outside. We can control a lot of what's going on outside. If a certain location is not pleasant to you, then you can leave that location. Most of the times, we're free to do that unless somebody else is imposing their will on us. But for the most part, we're free to move around. So we can move, we can change our environments, or within an environment, in your own home, if you look at that as your environment, you can change things in there. You can paint the walls, you can put new furniture in, you can open windows, close windows, hot, cold air, whatever you want to do. You can influence an environment, but sometimes we can't change the environment all the way, but we can always have control over our response to that environment. And if we take that approach of being curious instead of afraid, I think that can go a long way in helping us to realize the peace that's already inside of us, the inner peace that's always there. For more on inner peace, Michael Singer, check him out. And then related quote, Eckhart Tolle. If you don't know him, also a brilliant thinker, and definitely a fascinating story. His own personal experience with increasing in understanding is very interesting. Check him out. He said, "When you no longer perceive the world as hostile, there is no more fear, and then there is no more. And when there is no more fear, you think, speak, and act differently." If you can change your response to the environment, then you change yourself. And when you change yourself, you then change your influence on the environment and change your experience with the environment. Another name for you to investigate, if you're not familiar with, is Joe Dispenza. Joe Dispenza, I don't know what he would classify himself as. All this labeling stuff. Alan Watts has a great quote on that too. But I don't know. I won't look it up right now. But Joe Dispenza, I call him a neuroscientist just for ease. He studies the brain and the function of the body. But he teaches a meditation process and helping people to. He's an epigeneticist, I guess, might be another label to throw on him. Epigenetics is the idea that you can change your genes expression by your thoughts, starting with your thoughts. But so Joe Dispenza says, it starts with thoughts. Your thoughts lead to your choices. Your choices lead to your actions. Your actions define your personality, and your personality creates your person or defines your personal reality. I like to call that one environment. Similar things there. And then that recycles. It goes into a loop. So your personal reality influences your thoughts. For example, I like New York Mets baseball. I like to play baseball. I like to watch the New York Mets play baseball. I don't like to just watch any team play baseball. I like to watch the New York Mets. This year has been painful, but being curious instead of afraid of them losing miserably, right? So anyway, I like to watch baseball. I'm a Mets fan. So my thoughts are about Mets baseball. Baseball season starts, I start thinking about the Mets. Because I'm thinking about the Mets, I'm more likely to choose to wear my Mets hat. If I had one, I don't have one anymore, but if I had one, would choose the Mets hat rather than a different hat to wear, or Mets t-shirt or whatever, right? Or if I'm going to watch something, I might, because I'm thinking about, baseball season started, I like the Mets, let me watch the Mets on TV. And then those are my thoughts will create my choices. My choices are then, when I'm presented with what should I watch, Mets baseball or The Office for the millionth time, I'm going to choose Mets baseball, but I'll watch The Office later. Don't worry about that. I will get my Office daily screening in. That's a whole other thing. We'll go there some other time. But my choice is, and then choice when it comes down to hat 1 or hat 2, Mets hat, I'm going to choose Mets hat because my thoughts are about the Mets, so my choices are going to be about the Mets. And so then the choice is to pick up the Mets hat and put it on, or choice is to turn to the baseball channel and watch the Mets. The action is when I actually put that choice into effect. When I actually pick up the hat and put it on, that's where the action. So thoughts, choice, action. And then by choosing to wear the hat, choosing to watch the baseball game, choosing to go to the baseball game, choosing to talk about baseball, I'm now creating my personality. Now people are going to know me as, oh, that's Paul, he's a Mets fan. He's wearing the Mets hat, he's watching Mets baseball all the time. Oh, I can't go out and hang out with anybody because I'm watching baseball. Oh, you want to go to a baseball game with me? If you want to do something, let's go do that. All right, so it's all Mets baseball. And then my personality becomes defined by that. So it started out as thoughts. I was just thinking about it, led into my choices, led into my actions, led into my personality. And now I'm creating an environment. I'm putting Mets posters up on the wall. I'm buying baseball cards. I got binders. I'm looking through the cards. I'm trading cards with people. I'm going to the games. I'm talking about it. I'm doing fantasy baseball. All of these things are related to baseball. And now that's going to influence my thoughts more, right? Because I wake up in the morning and, there's a poster of Mets player. I don't know, you guys, if you don't follow the Mets, there's no point in me saying the names, but I like Brandon Nimmo. So there's a poster of Brandon Nimmo. I don't know if I'm really into putting posters of baseball players up on my wall anymore. That's kind of a thing from like 30 years ago. But I have actually a Mets baseball. It's a framed thing. Got about, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like 15 or 20 baseball cards, a display thing. Mets cards from when I was collecting cards. I probably put it together when I was 12 or 13. And I got it from my mom a couple years ago. She still had it at the house, and now I got it up in my room. So that's fun. Someone's calling me. I'll call him back later. But it creates it influences my personal reality. Is the point. And so I wake up in the morning, I see the Mets poster, put on the Mets hat. It's going to influence my thoughts. I'm going to think more about Mets baseball, and then that cycle continues. Now think about if you take something out, take baseball out of that and put in, I don't know why I've just completely gone off on a tangent. How is this related to fearing and being curious? I don't know. What did he say? Oh, it changes. I guess I was going back to you think, speak, and act differently when there's no more fear. I guess I was just talking about how to get to that, trying to make it relevant. I don't know. How long have we been talking for? 12 minutes? I should stop. Okay. I think this was it was an adequate test anyway. Okay, so let's see. When you no longer perceive the world as hostile, there's no more fear. And when there is no more fear, you think, speak, and act differently. And I guess I would say that so you can use that Joe Dispenza approach of thoughts, choices, actions, personality, personal reality. You might need to watch this on half speed because I talk really fast. I can try to talk slower, but I probably won't do it for very long. I'll try though. I'll do my best, but I'll do my best. So when your thoughts, to your choices, to your actions, to your personality, personal reality, if you stop your thoughts being on fear, if you stop seeing the world as hostile, there's no more fear. You take that out of your thoughts, you're no longer thinking about those fear thoughts. Maybe you replace that fear with curiosity. So now if your thoughts are focused on curiosity, what are your choices going to be? Your choices are going to be out of curiosity. So when you're presented with a new meal option at a restaurant, maybe you'll choose one that you have. You're not going to pick the one that you've eaten every single time for the last however many years. You're going to pick something new. Or you're at the grocery store, you say, well, I've never seen that fruit before. Maybe I'll buy that. Maybe I'll try that out. And so now you're changing your thoughts, and now you're changing your choices. You're going to pick the dragon fruit instead of the banana. Now you're changing your actions. You're eating different things. Now you're changing your personality. I'm someone who experiences or who seeks new experiences to widen my range of awareness. And then it starts to snowball into creating a new you. So while that was kind of a abstract tangent, I guess it's still related. Hooking these things all together. But Alan Watts, Eckhart Tolle, Joe Dispenza. You want to change your life? Read those guys, listen to their lectures, listen to everything about them, and that will happen. Or come here and I'll tell you about them. I'll give you a summary if that's something you're into. All right, so this was my first live stream test, and chances are I will never do this again. It'll be one of those many times where I start something and then never follow through with it. And that's okay, because I'm just being curious and trying things out. But I've wanted to do this for a while. I've had this banner for about 2 years now. My friend JD Green, he's got the Aired Out podcast in Vermont, and he's had me on his show as a guest for pretty much most of this year now, 2023. I was on a couple times in 2022, maybe as far back as 2021. It's a local podcast and pretty huge around here. And so he had me on as a guest and then invited me back more regularly. And so he's been encouraging me to try out the live stream, and finally doing it. Travis and I, like I said, another podcast that I do called Just Saying Things with my friend Travis, he and I have been talking about doing a live stream. So I just tested out this process on that channel this morning, and it seemed to work. That's where I discovered that maybe I'll try this lapel microphone instead of the webcam microphone, see what difference it makes. But I have time often. So I'm a counselor, a full-time counselor. It's my job, and I have times where nobody's scheduled or people cancel or have to reschedule or whatever. So I end up with some free time. So I think I'm going to try and do one of these when that occurs, a couple times a week at least, hopefully. I'll probably do them shorter than this 16 minutes, but I don't know. I mean, if you find this, if you watch this, if this is enjoyable or helpful to you in any way, let me know. And if you don't want to put your name on the YouTube chat, then text me if you know who I am. And if you don't know who I am, I guess you can find my phone number. It's available. You know enough about me now. I'm in Vermont. I'm a counselor. You'll be able to find my phone number. So that's that. All right. And don't be afraid. Be curious. Don't put yourself at risk, but be curious. There's a difference there. But as my goal, everything, I like the little catchphrases and stuff. So stop recovering, start living was one that I used before. The idea is, you break your leg, you go into recovery mode, you get a cast on, you put your leg up for 4 weeks, you don't walk on it, and then that's the initial recovery. And then when your leg is capable of being walked on again, you start to walk on it. You take the cast off, you stop putting it up and not walking on it, you ditch the crutches, you do some physical rehabilitation, physical therapy, but you keep going, you keep getting back to life, you live your life, you keep walking, you start walking again. Stop recovering, start living says that there's a period of time where it's appropriate to change everything and recover and focus on recovery. And so we're talking addiction here. And then I think that there's a time when we need to shift that recovery mindset. We're not in recovery anymore. Now we're done with that thing. It's over. Now we're living. And that's some people don't like that. It's all right. It makes sense to me. It makes sense to a lot of people. I think if we can talk about it, you can understand it. But so stop recovering, start living, imagine moving on. This is from a book called The Biology of Desire by Mark Lewis. I forget now. It's been a while. If I could see my bookshelf, if I didn't put this banner up, I'd be able to see my bookshelf and tell you for sure. But in the book, he's talking about a few people. He gives a few people's experiences with addiction and how they overcome it. And he's talking about one individual who had overcome addiction while at college and ended up working in the addiction treatment field afterwards and was working at a facility. And it said, this person knows better than most that until you can imagine moving on, you're not going to make any progress. And it's this idea that if you can't see yourself on the other side of what it is you're trying to change, you're not going to make it. If you can't even conceive it's possible, it's probably not going to happen. So much of it starts, again, thoughts, choices, actions, starts here. So imagine moving on is this idea that I like the way that phrase sounds, but if you can't see it in your mind, you're probably not going to be able to create it out here. Everything that you have in your life, you've created by your own intention or by yielding to someone else's intention or being imposed upon. It happens as well. So if you can't imagine it, you can't create it. We got to see it here first. We got to imagine it before we can create it, put it into the physical world. So imagine moving on is the idea that you create it in your mind before you create it in life. And if you can't see it here, you're not going to be able to see it out here. So that's the idea. And where was I going? Some phrasing. I don't know. Let's just stop here. It's good. Thanks for watching if you did. And if you didn't, you're not going to hear this. So thanks anyway. I don't know. It's so weird. These cliche things. I hate cliche things. And it's all everywhere. Everybody's saying the same stuff all the time. So I'm not going to say that. Have a good Tuesday. That's different, right? All right. I don't know how to, where's the button to